welcome to the Brilliant Marketing with Mary show. I am Mary, or Mobile Mary, or whatever you want to call me. And I'm so excited at the show today because I have a dear friend. In fact, we've just spent the last, too long, half an hour before we even started recording, talking about just all the amazing things that we've been, not endured, but enjoyed in our life. And she is an absolute expert in public relations, sometimes PR, right? You hear PR, what's PR, right? Public relations. And it's so fun because she is now super fancy, like in charge of the minds of millions of children who are growing up and doing amazing things because of Victoria Brodie. So I want to officially, there might be a couple of people out there that don't know who this amazing, dear, sweet, lovely, wonderful woman is. So I'm going to read her bio officially, so you can also learn how amazing she is. And then when she comes on, we're going to be talking about why everyone needs PR and why you need to tell your story before someone else does. So we're talking about all the magic today. So let me introduce her properly. So Victoria Brodie has an extensive experience in leadership, communications, and public relations, of course, and organizational strategies, from developing company visions and corporate brand strategies to handling integrated systems change. She currently is the chair of the Communication Arts Department at Cal Baptist University, also called CBU, which is very impressive. If you're in the Southern California area, you know how impressive that is. Victoria has conducted research and regularly speaks on leadership strategies in a VUCA world, which stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Yes. We are living in that right now. She holds a doctorate in organizational leadership from Pepperdine University, and she strives to impact her community through volunteering. She was the chair of Leadership Riverside class of 2022. She and I actually have been involved in that organization a long time. I was class of 2006. It is the best class, but we'll talk about that as well. And she's also served on numerous boards and committees. Victoria has also served as the chair on the Riverside Unified School District's Budget Advisory Committee. She's a past president of the Public Relations Society of America, the Inland Empire chapter. She was honored with the Riverside Hero Award in 2011 and the 2013 Women of Achievement for the YMCA of Riverside County. And if that's not all, was the 2014 American Cancer Society Inland Empire Celebration of Life honoree. So, wow. So without further ado, here's Victoria. Yay!
Well, hello. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today. Communication was one of my favorite topics of all time. So it's exciting to be able to talk a little bit about it in a way that's applicable, right? See, people communicate, right? We're doing that right now, but Are we doing it well? That's the question.
Right. And I really appreciate your perspective because you've also had real world experience, as I just read about in your bio, but you and I were in the business world doing projects together. And then you entered academia. Like, wow. Like that's a big transition. Tell me a little bit about that transition because a lot of people can't handle it. It's a definitely different world.
Well, I did a presentation today in San Bernardino County for a bunch of leaders. And one of the slides had one of those cartoons that says the unwritten rule book. Let's just say academia was an entire different rule book than being in business. And so it was a little bit of a learning curve. But to be honest, I absolutely love my job. I am so incredibly blessed every day. I get to walk in and see students and to be able to impact their lives because they are our future. I mean, literally, not even the cliche. They are our future.
Yeah.
And to be able to help them is really a blessing.
That is awesome. And I have spoken for your class in the past. I used to be a featured guest every year. I was like so excited when you'd be like, hey, when can you come in? And we talked about a gentleman who I used to think was pretty cool. And I met him in college and used to have me talk about it. And then all of a sudden I'm reading about all the stuff that he's like, if in today's day and age, I think he would be canceled.
Oh, for sure he would be canceled.
Yeah, Ed Bernays. But I remember when I was in college, it was like sitting at the feet of the master, like, like he made breakfast the most important meal of the day. He came up with that term.
He did.
Like he made orange juice.
Well, he was selling bacon.
Oh, bacon. Okay, I thought it was orange juice.
Yeah, he was selling bacon.
Yeah. And so he like convinced the American public.
Our
Yeah,
breakfast. Well, now everybody's fasting, so a lot of people
right.
aren't even doing it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, my husband and I have had the best um, experience, and I need to go back to it when we were doing the carnivore diet, which is mostly protein. So we would have bacon every morning.
Yeah.
thank you, Ed Bernays. I appreciate that. Or thank you, Ed Bernays. Like I don't know if it's thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't help that his uncle was Sigmund Freud. So
That's right.
yeah, that's why he was so persuasive. In what
Yes.
we in today's standards, we would say a little bit on the unethical side.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot.
Yeah.
Because he
The old
understood the
black hat.
psychology.
Yes. Oh, he had us convinced. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
that was always so fun talking about that. Okay. Well, let's get into this. So the very first tip that you shared that I kind of said in your intro is tell your own story before someone else does. Elaborate on that a little bit.
So it's a really interesting thing. We think that, especially for business owners. So we think that people should know who we are and what we do. But the problem is if we're not actually telling people who we are and what we do, then somebody else can make up that story for you. Like, say you're selling a product and all of a sudden something goes wrong, then somebody's telling that story and it's snowballed out of control. Right. And then all of a sudden, this is who you are versus who you know you are. So it's about just being ready, prepared, and having something together so you can actually tell your story before somebody decides they have something to say for you.
Right. And so, well, let's step back a little bit because we're talking about public relations today, right? In fact, I didn't even put that title, but it's how to create a public relations action plan is what we're going to be, you're going to be giving us some actionable steps for that today. So if you're watching, stay tuned. The good stuff is still coming. um, but like define public relations. I mean, I kind of joked about Ed Bernays as the father of public relations, but tell people really what it is.
So public relations really is looking at kind of the messaging, the value system. It's looking at what a brand is and what it does. And it's really about the longevity of the brand. So oftentimes when we look at people go public relations versus marketing, a couple of differences. One, public relations is about kind of the long haul, longevity in terms of public perception, and
Okay.
then in the relationships. And marketing is more specific to a specific time, place, and also the measurement is through return on investment, where
Right.
measurement for public relations is more on public perception and
Mm,
relationship perception. So how people relate to us. And those are the major differences. And I think that when you look at, say, Super Bowl commercials now, they
right.
aren't selling they aren't selling something. They're
Right.
selling the brand,
Right.
because the brand is what keeps us with repeat customers.
Right. We
And I
create
could do a
loyalty with
whole
brand.
I could do a whole thing on just that. But I'm
That's
here
right.
for
Because you teach 4 classes. You were telling me you teach four
each
up
semester.
each semester up to 4 classes and being the chair and doing all the other things you do. Like, girl, you are superhuman.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I just got appointed by our mayor to be on the Parks and Recs commission. So
Like you need one more thing. Girl, what's up?
no, I know, right? It's
Just in
fun.
your spare
It's fun.
time. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You can
You
sleep
know,
when you're dead. It's fine.
ask
It's fine. Yeah,
ask the busiest person for help. You'll get it done.
exactly. Exactly. That's so true. Yeah. So I just keep my phone off. So it's good. Okay, so we've discussed the difference between PR and marketing, and I
Right.
think it's important that everyone has both in their
Agreed.
toolbox, right? Because
And they work well together.
they do. But and a lot of people will say, "Well, PR is just free advertising." Well, it's
Mm,
also like reputation management, and there's a lot of things like you said, people buy a brand because they are loyal to something. And give me okay, that was one thing I was going to say. Like, what happens when you've built a brand around a person and that
oh,
person goes rogue? Something happens bad, and you're built your entire brand around that person. Like, Willie, I know this sounds weird, and he hasn't done anything wrong, but I just thought of because it used to be a client of mine, Pedigo. William Shatner is their spokesmodel. But if William Shatner all of a sudden found out tomorrow he was eating puppies or something. Like what would be, I don't know.
Well, I think you don't have to look any further than Lance Armstrong.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, I mean, we look at Lance Armstrong, and that was pretty difficult for them to be able to, but they separated themselves. And Armstrong the foundation was still alive, but they had to separate from Lance Armstrong. So,
Right.
brands can do it, but it's difficult. It's really hard to make a person the brand, because
Right.
when the person's not there, the brand's not there. So you always want to have something that can be, if you want longevity in your organization, you want to make sure that you have succession planned and that you aren't stuck where it's just you and people are coming for you. They're
Right.
coming for what you have built.
Exactly. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. What a brilliant marketing share that is.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm using ASMR just to point that out. Thank you very much.
Ooh, very nice.
Um, but would you say that is it better? I know this sounds weird, but because I do a lot of talking on AI,
Mhm.
is it better to create a character to represent your brand, like Jack in the Box is Jack,
Um,
or is it better to steer away from an icon in your brand?
Uh, so brands, I think you have to look at it a couple of ways. One, your brand is really about your values, but what represents you typically is something that is a represent, like we have brands, right? I tend to use words in my brand,
Mhm.
but I also you have people have logos.
Right.
So your logo is your brand.
Right.
And but I don't know that I would do any kind of icon in terms of that,
Okay.
because of the fact that it's still you.
Right.
It's still
Yeah.
you.
Right. But I
So
mean, for a company like, I mean, Apple, Steve Jobs is really still their person, right? Even though he's passed away. But something like IBM, they don't really have a character they have a logo, but they don't really have like a thing, and they're a little successful, right?
yeah, a little bit like
A little-
General Electric, right? So you look at the
Yeah.
big ones, and
Right.
they don't typically, they may have associated with a person at first,
Okay.
but very quickly people understand that for succession's sake and the business sake, if you want to continue on, then you need to really pull it away from just you.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Not
Well,
that everyone's not amazing and wonderful, but if you really want to make sure that your brand continues, then you want to um, have it at least be able to continue without you there.
I love it. Cool. Okay, let's get into the marketing share.
Sure.
What we promised the folks. Give them what they want. So we're gonna learn how to put together an intentional and focused communication plan in 4 steps. And I will try to write these down so people can see them. So let's get right into it. Tell me, what is an intentional and focused communication plan in general?
So it's really funny you ask that, because a lot of people, and I don't blame people for this at all. I mean, we're all so busy, and especially if you're doing a startup or running a new business, then you're just trying to stay afloat, right?
Right.
So when you look at communicating, it's kind of like, let's throw this up here, let's throw that up here. How can we get that to stick? But
Right.
the challenge with that is that how do you figure out what sticks and what doesn't, and what do you do to ensure that your audience is getting your message?
Okay.
So when you're intentional and focused on a specific issue or topic that you all want to communicate on, then you make much more progress. It's kind of like when we go, we have a list of what we want to get done so we can hit this ultimate goal, right?
Right.
So so I tell my students all the time, it's kind of like, you're going to take, your ultimate goal is to get a PR degree. Then you have your steps, you have your classes, you have all these different things that you have to do to get that PR degree.
Right.
So a PR plan helps to put that all together in actionable steps
Okay.
so that you can actually produce something at the end of it. And that focused attention is amazing. What you focus on is what happens,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's life is a matter of focus. So
Be the
it's about
ball. Be the ball.
right, be the ball, be the ball. But it's about having that just putting in that intention. And the one good thing about a communication plan is that once you have one done, you can typically put in a different topic. So maybe I'll go over it a little bit so that makes more sense.
Okay.
So the plan that I want to talk about is RPI is the short for it. So you guys can remember. It's
Okay.
research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. And
Okay.
in that, it's really important to do all of those steps.
Okay.
So when you look at the research, you want to know kind of what do we know about the situation? Because we're going to try to narrow it down to one thing for this plan. So
Okay. And our sense
you can focus on, let's say you want to open up a new platform, right? Or you want to bring in more customers, or you want to bring more awareness to your brand. Okay. So say I want to bring more awareness to my brand. So how am I going to do that? Who am I going to talk to? So this is one of the biggest things. The research part is very, very important because guess what? Communication is not about you. It's about your person you're sending it to. You can do something that's beautiful and lovely and wonderful, and nobody hears it because you're sending it the wrong direction. Right?
I love that. I love that.
I know.
It's so true. I think people like kind of wander around, but you have to be laser focused on who wants your product, what they need, and it's all about them. So
it is
true.
All about them, right? But you have to define who them is.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So the one thing that right. One exercise I lead my students through in the capstone class where they work with a real client is I lead them through a thing called a stick figure. I won't let them speak to the client about it because it freaks them out. Because every client, I don't care who I talk to, almost everyone says, I want to talk to everybody.
Right.
If you've got skincare, everybody has skin. Well,
skin, yeah.
Right. But the thing is if you're talking to everyone, you're really not talking to anybody.
Right. Amen.
So you really have to define your audience and figure out who it is you want to talk to about this. Like maybe you want to reach out to a younger demographic.
Right.
So you're going to message differently to that younger demographic than maybe what you're doing now. So you need to know who you're going to be speaking to, right?
So is that the P is persona?
No.
Or are you still talking about research?
I'm still talking about research, but in that research, part of that is the stick figure I was talking about. So what I lead them through is I say, who are you talking to? And they're like, oh, I said, okay, give me an age. And they're like, an age? And I said, yes, give me an age. So I make them do specifics, gender, nationality, level of education, all of the different things that go along with my ideal person for this.
Love it.
And I tell them not to talk to the clients because clients get freaked out. It's not that we're trying to only talk to that one person, but we know when we focus on talking to that one person, we get a full gamut of people around them.
Right.
So it's really helpful. And then it allows you to really talk to somebody versus kind of how there used to always be this we talk instead of I, right? So organizations would be like, by the management, from the management, but we've gotten into this relational through social media where it's really this back and forth. So we just need to understand who we're talking to. And then where are they?
Okay.
Right? Where are they? Where are they showing up? Right? You don't want to post content where they're not showing up. So then once you've got that done, you want to figure out what your goals are. What would you like to accomplish with this plan? So say you want the younger demographic. So you're going to say, you're going to look at, okay, great. What do I want to do with this younger demographic? I want to raise brand awareness for my product. So you want to ensure that you're increasing brand awareness for this product. But a goal is really great. But we all know that a goal without steps or measurable points that doesn't actually end up happening. So, or it happens in a way you didn't anticipate. So then what we would do is we would put the overarching goal of what we want to accomplish and then a SMART objective. So maybe the SMART objective is I'm going to reach out to, or I'm going to work on our Instagram page. We're going to reach out specifically to 18 to 26-year-olds, right? So we're specifically reaching out to them. So you create, it's a SMART objective, not a SMART goal.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was jumping ahead.
Trust me, this this the whole goal setting thing throws everyone off.
Okay, good.
Everyone.
And here I'm trying to be helpful, taking notes.
I know. I
I did the
appreciate
wrong
it.
thing. Objective. Okay, got
But
it.
so it's a SMART objective. So it's
Okay.
specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Yes.
Because you want to know that what you're doing. Now, one thing I do want to caution you about is we tend to think in tactics, right? So you're like,
Right.
ooh, I can do a, I can do a reel on this. This would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So we tend to think in tactics, but what you have to do is really, when you're putting together the beginning of this plan, is go back and say, why would I want to put together that reel? What is the ultimate goal I'm trying to achieve? Why? And that will help you solidify what your goal is. So if you
Love it.
find yourself thinking in tactics, just go back, keep pulling yourself back to why. I mean, my students get sick of hearing it.
But it's true, like Simon Sinek also said that people will connect with your why,
Yeah.
right? Because that will draw in your perfect client. Because if they know why you're doing something, it's definitely more powerful, right, than what
Right.
you're doing. Who cares, right?
Exactly. Well, and it also helps the clarification, because a lot of this is what I say is focused
Love it.
energy. So it's not about it's so labor intensive. It's not labor intensive. It's just where you don't go off on tangents.
Right.
You stick to the plan.
Yeah.
So, and then once you've got those objectives done, you want to look at what kind of strategies you want to do to reach people. Maybe that is reels, maybe it's videos, maybe it's, webinars, whatever it may be for you to get your product out there or to get your organization out there and what you do out there.
Okay.
So you'll start thinking about those tactics and tools, right? So that's the place to think about it, is after you have the other stuff set, that's when you go into, okay, so how am I actually going to do this?
Okay.
Right. So once you figure that out, then you develop a timeline.
Okay. Now, I apologize for being one of those people in your class
Oh,
that says
yeah.
we're filling out the form RPIE, but I'm getting that whole, like, I need to know which, are we at the P yet? Because I need to write it down.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, we are at the P. I apologize.
Okay. Seriously, I never thought I was one of those people. You go to a seminar and
No.
they hand out the sheet of paper with the lines and the words, and you're like waiting to fill in, like, what's on the, what do you call
I know.
what is that? Mad Libs.
In the bouncing ball in my head goes so fast, I don't always connect the dots.
Yeah. And
So
so I'm like, oh, what is the E? What is the P? I'm
it's
a
so
dork. I'm sorry.
thank you. Oh, no, it's very good. So yeah, so in this is the point too where you're going to develop a timeline. Now, I would suggest that you do like a 10-week timeline, or you could do shorter. So you could do short timelines where you do like a month, or even a couple of weeks, or maybe even a couple of days if it's something that you're building excitement for quickly, right? So it just depends on the length of time you need. But for branding and for your own brand and your longevity of your brand and awareness, I would say a little bit longer of a run on it. So the
Okay.
timeline would be, let's say, 10 weeks.
Okay. And the P stood for what? What was the word?
Planning.
Planning. Thank you. That's where we create a timeline. Love it. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we do goals, smart objectives. And then we also look at strategies and tactics, right?
Okay.
So what are the strategies we're using? What are the tactics we're going to use? And then we also look at developing a timeline.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
So one of the things in terms of, I just want to go really quickly into timeline. One of the things about a timeline that I find really helpful is that to do a week by week timeline where things are kind of written out. So if somebody else is helping you with this, then they can reference that and see what exactly is meant by whatever you have in maybe a monthly calendar. So then you would have a content calendar. I'm saying this is all on social media because that's what we picked, but
Sure.
You do a content calendar, but that only has brief points of what you're posting every day or what you're doing every day.
Right.
It isn't about explaining the whole thing, where the weekly timeline and breakdown would be about that. So,
and if I could ask a question there, because you talked about content calendar, but I'm thinking PR, so I'm thinking editorial calendar, right? Where you're trying to get, match your story to the publications that need it. Does this have anything to do with that, or is it completely separate?
So here's the thing. So we're doing a quick sidebar. So getting attention now is very hard.
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about social media. So we have come up with the peso system, which is paid media, which is like advertising and boosting posts and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then we have earned, which is that somebody sees this and they want to write an article on you, right? And then we have shared, which is somebody shares your post. So
Right.
that's kind of the new earned media on social
It's
is
true.
shared,
Hmm.
right? So shared, and then owned is like your website. These are the things that you have control over the messaging.
Ooh, I
Because
love that.
with shared, you don't have control over what they're going to comment on it, right? With earned, you don't, and the journalist is not going to consult you, right? On what they think you think is best. They're going to
Right.
write their article. And
Yeah.
then paid, you can again do whatever you need to in that paid sphere. But the magic thing is to try to find what you need in that formula that will work for you. So you may have to pay in boosting a post to get it started,
Right.
right? You may have
More people.
to
Mhm.
what?
To reach more people that might not be in your sphere of influence right
Agreed.
now. Yeah.
Because it's so crowded out there. It's so loud out
So
there.
noisy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's
much
some
coming at you,
it's
right?
hard to break through that.
Yeah.
So sometimes we do that first so it can get some bandwidth, and then once we do that, it starts the ball rolling. So as PR used to be this whole you only earn, that's the gold standard of PR. That's still there. I mean, obviously we would love to have journalists write about us, but I'm sorry, but there are fewer and fewer journalists out there.
Right.
And unless it's something that really they like, want to, and you've basically written it for them,
Right.
I don't want to say that, but given them enough that they can write it,
Right.
it's tough to get them to write about your organization. So this is a kind of a quicker way to do it. And social media is, especially if you're going for a younger demographic, that's where you want to be doing this.
Right. So really peso has to do with social media in
Yeah.
general.
Well, because it's the shared.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could look at earned in the sense that somebody could, I mean, I know we're on a limited time here, but uh, there's someone who wrote a book called "Trust Me, I'm Lying: Confessions of a Media Manipulator." His name's Ryan Holiday. Now he has written all sorts of stuff since, and actually, that book was to cleanse his weary soul because it was so bad out there. He wanted people to know that they were being manipulated. So
What's it
what
called
he
again? Say it again.
Trust Me, I'm Lying:
Trust me.
Confessions of a Media Manipulator.
Because
So
I'll put a link to that book in the comments.
yeah, so one of the things he shared in that book, and don't hold me to this verbatim, but this is conceptually what it was, is um he was working with a movie or something. So he had written something up, given it to kind of a low-level blogger who then was like, or did something, and the low-level blogger started blogging about it. And then that low-level blogger got seen by someone else a little bit higher, and they picked it up, right? So they pick it up, and then all of a sudden it's on Huffington Post, right? So an amalgamator, and then CNN picks it up.
And this was just like a little thing. Wow.
He
Okay.
also he also put up a billboard, and then he wrote stuff on it, and he painted stuff on it, and he ripped it and stuff, and then said another group did it because he was trying to build excitement for the movie,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Wow.
And he got all sorts of news coverage over this stuff.
That
So
is wild. Did you hear about the Burger King um,
no.
15-second ad? So there was a little company, Hungry, right? And they pitched Burger King that we want to do this ad for you, and we guarantee that this will have 1 million views. And it's only going to cost this much money. It was like a short thing or whatever. Anyways, so you'd love this. In fact, I'll put the link to the YouTube about it in the comments as well. So their campaign was, and this was like a couple years ago, and literally it went viral. In fact, they probably didn't say 1 million views. They said it'll go viral. That was like their promise or your money back. So their commercial was a guy in a Burger King uniform standing behind the grill. Like you could tell he was in a store. And he said, and he's holding a Whopper. And he goes, people always ask us what's in a Whopper. So how about, hey, Google, what's in a Whopper? And that was it. 15 seconds. Everyone's home Google came on and said,
Oh
a
my gosh,
Whopper,
mine's doing it right now.
right?
My Google's doing it right now.
Okay, yeah. So it says, it's all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, whatever, right? And so all of a sudden, people are like, "What the heck?" And so then Google says you're not getting free advertising, and I guess they kept changing the algorithm so it wouldn't recognize it. But the little company had thought about that, and they changed the voice sound. They changed, like, went into a unicorn voice, went into a robot voice, went into different languages.
Wow.
Went so far else. But that's the thing. Not only did it go viral because people were like, "Oh my gosh," and they started posting about it, then the news people picked up on it, and everybody was talking about this 15-second Burger King ad, right? So right there, like, wow, what an example of getting free advertising
Yeah.
by using
On someone else's
technology.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it's interesting that they said, "Hey Google" versus like, "Hey Alexa" or like whatever. But it was like, "Hey Google, what's in a Whopper?" like that, and then it just took off, and that was it.
That's crazy.
Brilliant,
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Okay, sorry.
I
Well, let's
know.
get back to this because
Well,
we have to wrap up soon. It's okay. We're already over. That's okay.
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 So, in one really quick thing, Ryan Holiday has done all sorts of fantastic books that are based in Stoicism since. So he
Okay.
has gone out of that world and he has just a brilliant mind and does amazing work. That one of his books is called Ego is the Enemy. So you know where he's coming from now.
Yes. I think
So
I've
okay.
actually heard of that book. Okay.
Okay. So implementation is really kind of
The
about
I.
taking what? Yes, that's the I.
Thank you.
So it's really about taking everything that you've done so far and creating your creative materials. So if you're going to be doing posts, getting on that Canva, right? Every non-graphic designer's dream. So
Right.
making the posts, putting together videos, all of that stuff, you're going to get all of your creative content together, all your materials together, your budget, all of that. It's going to flow in with your timeline. So you'll adjust your timeline based on these things. And then you're going to ensure you know exactly which channels you're sending it through, which we talked about that, and make sure that your messaging is reaching that targeted audience. So one of the great things about doing a campaign on social media is that you can check it as it's in progress.
Right. Love it.
And yeah, I mean, we didn't have that. I mean, before we would, if we did say, a magazine article, we would say, well, they have a readership of 50,000 people. Well, it doesn't say that 50,000 people read your article. Right?
Right.
And
But
now
that's how they charge
we can
the big
say,
bucks. Like, they're like,
now
"Oh,
we
we
can
have this
say
thing."
they read the headline. They, or they stepped away and read the whole thing. But, so, so we have the ability to shift and change.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying no print anymore. I'm not saying that at all, or any other methodology.
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
just saying that this is something that we as business owners can control and
I
can
love
do.
that.
And
But
we
also,
can,
you'd probably agree too, though, that because hardly anybody is doing print, or let's say direct mail as an example, when you send direct mail, it stands out. If you get a postcard from someone, you're reading it. I mean, that was always the case. You're reading a postcard as you're throwing it away. Like, you literally have to read it as you're throwing it away. But you're reading it. And so when you hardly are getting any mail, what you do mail gets read. So I'm always suggesting that too. Like, I know it seems old school.
it's true. I mean, it's true. We love that. But literally for me, one of the biggest things is that I want to empower, and that's what I teach my students, is I want to empower small business owners to take control of their own messaging and marketing. Because when you're small, you don't necessarily have the budget to be able to bring somebody in to do this for you.
Right.
And the tools are there for you to do it. So this structure with the tools really allows you to have focused intentional communication to the people you're trying to reach, to change perceptions, open perceptions, all of these different things. So evaluation is the last part of this.
Okay.
And what you really want to do is you want to look at, did I meet the SMART objective? It's really that easy.
Right.
Did I meet the SMART objective? And hopefully, because you did this focused intentional messaging, you did more than that. or you had added benefits. Maybe what you did is you sent them to your website and you had more people, more people on your website, your pages were stickier, they didn't bounce as often, whatever it is, whatever your metric is,
I love
then
it.
you can look at that and find out what happened. But I'm going to tell you, if you are putting out intentional, focused messaging to the correct audience, you will have results. Now, if for some reason it goes awry, you need to go back to step one.
Right. Rinse and repeat.
Well, and the thing is that like I learned this the hard way. I was with a client and I did this. I got my audience from the client.
Oh.
Step one, bad, right? I normally do my own audience research. I got my
Oh.
audience from my client.
Oh, I see. You mean they told you who the audience was instead of you researching? Oh, wow. Okay. That's a
Right?
good
So
nugget right there.
lesson learned for me. I've never done that again. But the whole point was this beautiful print and online campaign, like beautiful, like posters and mailings and all sorts of stuff. Like it was a very robust campaign.
Right.
And it was falling short.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because I was communicating in a way that was not as effective with that audience.
Right. It wasn't resonating with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you always go back to the research.
I
If
love it.
something isn't clicking, if you're not getting the shares, if you're not getting the likes, if you're not getting the comments, go
Right.
back to the research.
Something else that this brings up, saying evaluation, I think a lot of us don't look back. We're so busy with the noisy world and our lives. I mean, everything going on that sometimes we like do something next and you go on. But if you don't evaluate it, it's like the definition of crazy, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So
Right.
when you take the time to evaluate what went wrong, like when we used to do big events, we'd have a wrap meeting. So we'd like, okay, what worked, what didn't work? So we don't repeat it,
Right.
so all the good things do more of, all the bad things do less of.
Well, and that's one of the
Or
ending
not at
points
all.
of a campaign is that at the end you do that, because what'll happen is then you can shift and change it and use it as a template. So maybe
Yes.
it's not brand awareness the next time.
Right.
Maybe it's something else,
Right.
but you can use that structure as a template to be able to add in what you want to, but you cannot do it effectively if you don't do what we used to call a postmortem, right?
Yes.
So after it was done, if you
Yes.
don't do that kind of like what worked, what didn't work, what can be done better
Right.
for next time.
I
And
love
then
it.
also oftentimes these communication plans give you show other opportunities for additional communication plans. So it's really a great way to start communicating, get your name out there, and then get your name out there again, and maybe even open up more audiences to yourself.
I love it. Wow. So much goodness, so much meat in this one session. And we are so over time. I'm
Sorry.
really, no, are you kidding me? I was feeding it, like adding all the words. I love it. No, you were brilliant, Victoria. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing your
you're
wisdom
welcome.
with our audience. Like, I hope everyone has taken notes and gone through and to make this for yourself. Because you're right. Once you create a template of something, it makes your life so much easier. I'm all about doing things that are simple and easy and having some fun at it. So, and
Right.
I'm sure at the end, the bow on top is that you enjoy what you're doing, right, Victoria? Like,
Oh,
have some
yeah.
fun because people are so in need of lightening up, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's important too, that we don't take
it is.
ourselves too seriously.
Oh, we do. We do. It's so serious. Is it going to matter in 24, 48 hours? How about 5 years?
Right.
We have to put
Yeah.
things in perspective.
Yeah. In the old days, they would say, today's news is tomorrow's fish wrap, right? Now, these days, everything's online forever. So I'm
Right.
sure that's something. In fact, when I was teaching that day in your class, we were talking about like you have a carbon footprint. So don't do things that your grandmother's self is going to be embarrassed about, or your grandchildren will be embarrassed for you.
Yeah,
So it's
true.
important to think of those things as well. But when it comes to your business, that's really not appropriate. But for personal things. So, all right. Well, listen, I just want everyone to know how amazing you are. I'm trying to put up your cute little name here. So again, this is Victoria Brodie, Dr. Victoria Brodie, soon to be an MBA as well. This woman's going to have more letters behind her name than alphabet soup. But I'm so proud of you, Victoria. We've known each other for so long, and I treasure your friendship, and I'm grateful for your time. And with that, I'm going to end the show. And again, stay tuned next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. I just dated myself. Because I'm just so excited to bring more goodness to our community and to learn from brilliant people like my friend Victoria.